I'd like to open this public hearing. Take roll, please.
Mayor Querom.
Here.
Councilmember Swanson.
Here.
Mabry.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Newman.
Here. Okay, so on this public hearing on a marijuana dispensary in Princeton, I want to just open up, keep a few things in mind. This might answer some people's questions and maybe not, but it's just some factual information. If the city allows someone to open a dispensary, there is no guarantee one will open here. The cost of licensing, along with the cost of the facility and the security mandates associated with the dispensary business, is very high. There are only 75 licenses being offered initially, which will go to 500 by the summer of 2021, so it might be more likely that if someone does open a dispensary here, it will take some time. The city is not opening a dispensary, nor is the city soliciting anyone to open a dispensary. All an ordinance does is set the legal framework for allowing a dispensary in town should someone desire to open one. The city will not be in the marijuana business. The city controls where a dispensary can be located within the city limits. North of the railroad tracks, in adult-use zoning areas are the primary locations of where a dispensary would locate. A dispensary will not be located downtown or uptown or anywhere in between. The entire process of licensing and background checks involving anyone who wants to apply for a dispensary in Princeton is handled by the state of Illinois. The opening of a dispensary is private enterprise. The city's involvement ends at allowing a dispensary in town or not by ordinance. A marijuana dispensary is a legal business selling an adult product that is legal. In that respect, it is no different than a bar, a store, or a restaurant that sells alcohol. The city can collect up to a 3% tax on the gross sales of marijuana and associated products. This could be a significant amount of money that the city can use for any purpose it deems warranted. And to give you an example, we are mandated to fund our police and fire pensions. The city funds these pensions with what the city collects in your property taxes. These pensions should be funded at 95% or higher. Currently, our pensions are funded at about 70%. Tax revenue from the sale of marijuana can be used to narrow, if not close, this gap. We can also apply proceeds to our long-term debt. By allowing someone to open a dispensary, the city is not allowing marijuana into the community, as it will be legal and will be here regardless, whether a dispensary is here or not. A dispensary will not affect the status of CPASA and DARE and what they do. CPASA will continue to do what they currently do, as will DARE. If the ordinance allowing a dispensary to open a business passes, all other marijuana businesses, diffusers, transportation, cultivating centers, craft growers, will also likely be allowed to open in Princeton. If the ordinance allowing a dispensary to open in Princeton fails, a follow-up ordinance will be voted on banning any and all marijuana businesses from opening in Princeton. Concerns over what marijuana is, what it does, its effect on society, etc., is not what this hearing is about. You can speak about that if you want, but that was all decided by the state when they legalized it. No one in the city council was elected to be the moral authority on what anyone in Princeton can or cannot do when it involves using a legal product legally. That is not our role, nor should it ever be. Should the city refuse, it all boils down to this, should the city refuse anyone who wants to open a business in Princeton if their business intent is to sell a retail product that is legal and to do so legally? That's the question. So what we do, kind of a show of hands of everybody that would like to speak, so I can get an idea of how many.
How about
maybes? Because we have quite a few people here, and we could do this. You know, we could do it like give everybody a couple of minutes to speak, or if everybody can get what they want to say in a couple of minutes. If not, doesn't look like a lot of people want to speak, so you can speak longer. So all we need for you to do, you can come up to the mic. We need your first and last name, and then go ahead. And this is not anything that the council is going to interact with you on. This is a public hearing, so this is for you. So, first one up.
B, do you want to slide the button on top of the microphone toward you?
Sure. She said,
Slide it forward.
There. Yeah, I got it. Thanks. My name is Bee Coates, and I am a resident of Princeton for at least 50 years, and we'll let it go at that. I've raised 2 children here. I have 2 grandchildren, and I am speaking for that. I'm not speaking for my own children. They're gone, and I was proud of the Princeton community. They helped Gary and I raise those 2 children. And I think whereas you indicated that this was not a moral issue, that, when I voted for you guys, that's part of who I am. And you're representing me. So I think that my feeling is that we have to take a stand for those children, not my children, but those children, your grandchildren. I know a lot of you have those
In school. And I think that,
That's okay, this will keep going.
okay, I think that we do need to take a stand as a community. I think it says who we are. And, our grandparents and all of your teachers have said, you can't, if everybody else is going over the bridge, you're going over the bridge. No, we're not going to do that. We shouldn't do that. The other thing is, once we open Pandora's box and allow those things to come into the community, we can't get those things back in. I won't be here to see the end of this. I think it was wrong for our governor to put this into action in the first place without calling for a vote. But now you're going to make a decision again without our vote. So I'm just saying, I am speaking for those generations. I've been in the classroom for 35 to 40 years, and I tell you, there's different kinds of kids. We have no idea right now. There's not enough research out there to indicate what's going to happen in terms of their mental health. What kind of diseases are going to come out of this? Are we going to have more crime? I mean, there are all kinds of things. I just think it's the wrong thing to do.
My name's Don Yansfield. I've lived here in Princeton for about 17 years. Directly addressing some of the points that you brought up, Mr. Mayor, community costs, we'd like to think that it's a clean cost, make 3%, and we'd be able to fund things on it. We don't know the soft costs.
Use the mic or not? You can't hear
The mic, I think the battery's dead.
Well, you need to
There we go, better, try it again.
We don't know the soft costs, and I would point all of you to the Centennial study done in Colorado for 2018 that points out some of those soft costs that really absorb that tax money. And while we think it might be a great benefit for the city to gain that money, we don't know what those soft costs are and how it will affect long-term costs such as crime and mental health. Secondly, the mixed message that's being sent by saying, oh yeah, we'll allow medical marijuana or whatever marijuana to be sold within the city. We've already got enough problems with youth and suicide here in town. We don't need to continue to send a mixed message by saying that we can fund CPASA and some of the other drug abuse programs, but then at the same time take money from taxes on marijuana and say that that's okay. I think it's a mixed message and it's really not good. Regardless of what the governor did, don't agree with his politics at all. I think it was a bad decision to start with. And then finally, there is a moral choice to be made. Again, whether or not the governor did it, that's his problem. But just by virtue of the fact that you are in authority over a community, that puts you in a moral position. And if you want to refer to Dr. Leslie Green's study from Harvard on what moral law and the separation or the combination of those two mean, I think it would be good. Your making a decision or not making a decision is conferring a moral choice.
I'm Colleen Sissel, and I've lived here since the day I was born. I am standing behind Dee and you, young man. We have raised our children here. I think it's a moral responsibility that we all take on. And the thing is, if you haven't lived this with your family, alcohol is okay, drugs are okay, sex is okay. We're allowing ourselves to tell our children that there are no boundaries. But we have moral boundaries. Our moral boundaries are all that matters because there's a heaven and there's a hell. And I know that doesn't belong in here, but that's just my heart speaking, and you all know that I speak from my heart. And so, just FYI, I am totally not agreeing with this, and I understand it's all up from Papa Mucks, but you know what? We have our children to look out for. And if we say it's legal and it's absolutely accidentally laced with something else and we lost another one due to that, we said it was okay. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else like to speak?
My name is T.J. Alvarado. I moved back to Princeton for
State your name once again.
T.J. Alvarado.
Thank you.
Yep. I moved back here to Princeton a couple years ago after living in Colorado for about 6 or 7 years, and I actually lived in Colorado Springs, which was in a county that voted against recreational dispensaries. So I do have a little bit of perspective on that front. I do just want to touch on really quick, because I was up here at the last meeting, where you guys kind of conferred a little bit. You have just a couple of things I want to throw in this that I think might be relevant in terms of a little bit of outside perspective. You had mentioned that this is going to be the best overall decision for the community, and I think that...
Can't hear him back here.
Hey, Ray.
Can you use your mic? Look for it.
No, we got one. I guess you could. Yes.
Battery wants to just...
Key that in there. Glad to have you.
Can you hear me back? Okay, so there's obvious tax benefits that everybody keeps running in and out the numbers and everything, that how it might help the city in terms of bringing in this or that in terms of taxation from the product itself, from having a business here that might offer that. I think that there's a pretty small chance that even if it were greenlit, that anybody's going to bring a dispensary to Princeton, given that there's more notable areas like the South Brew area. Outsiders looking in don't really know where Princeton is, but they're familiar with the LP area. So that makes me think that odds are, if there were going to be a place, it probably wouldn't be at Princeton. But I think that there's something a little bit bigger, which is the social stigma that's attached with having a community that supports recreational marijuana use, or the selling of, or just being looked at as somebody who isn't a criminal for using it. I know that there was a moment when I was in Colorado, I saw it go from being just medicinal to recreationally legalized, and there was kind of like an aha moment when you realize that you weren't looked at as being a part of like some scum part of society just because you decided to smoke a doobie instead of go and get a six-pack and go home and get drunk. Speaking of when it comes into the question of morality and stuff, the first thing I have to ask is the moral obligation to who? I think we're speaking of a very particular segment of the population of the citizens who might be in that same boat of that moral obligation. I'm thinking more of where does that moral obligation stand when we look at the opiate addiction or the alcoholism. Councilman Gomez mentioned educating the public. Huge for that. I think it's necessary, especially because there's decades of misinformation that Illinois residents have been fed as a result of the failed war on drugs, which is one of the reasons that Illinois legalized it too. It's not simply just because of the money, just because of the taxation of it, but also because it's been shown that the war on drugs has failed, and it's also marginalized minorities across the United States. And obviously it deals more with, when you're looking at opiates and crack versus cocaine and all that stuff and how that's played into it. But I think it starts with the misconception that marijuana is a gateway drug. And I'm for the DARE program up until a certain age. And I think that we see that once students reach a certain age, you have to start appealing to the parents, not so much the students. DARE works up until a certain point. I think that the failed war on drugs also indicates that DARE isn't as successful. And if we look at our own community, how many people in my generation have been lost in the last decade and a half due to opiate addictions and alcoholism, drunk driving, crashes, stuff like that. Those were all preached during the DARE program also, you know what I mean? And I think that their psychological studies show that there's 4 main different types of adolescence developments, mindsets that tend to develop. One of them might look at a gateway drug and say, marijuana is bad. They've been preaching it's bad. I tried it. It's not that bad. well, let me try this. That's one segment. Some kids might be from a more informed family who might try that marijuana the first time and then say, you know, it's not that bad, but I probably shouldn't stick a hypodermic needle in my arm either. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of, there's responsibility at home in what we're, you know, informing the citizens, informing our people on it. So it's not just the DARE program and, you know, groups that are responsible for educating our youth and stuff. It's us too at home, and I think that starts with properly educating the public. So when we talk about drug use up to a certain age, like, you know, early 20s, your brain is still developing. There are effects that marijuana has on the brain, but it's also not supposed to be technically used until you're 21, right? Alcohol also has effects. Like anything that you use in a beverages is going to have an effect. But I think that to make the jump from it's going to lead to psychosis and schizophrenia is bearing right on the line of that whole reefer madness, Anslinger propaganda thing that wreaked havoc 70, 80 years ago. And we've come a long way from that, and that's why the United States is generally drifting towards a more accepting appeal to it. I think really that's kind of the basis of like what I was gauging from like your guys' conversation last week, just some of the ideas that were thrown out there. The only other thing that I can offer up in terms of coming from a setting who's seen the legalization before, it doesn't. I mean, the black market's still going to be there, especially while it's all rolling out. Having a dispensary is one thing, but also if you greenlight a dispensary, you're also greenlighting maybe allowing for somebody, a group of people, if they want to go and partake, you can go there and partake safely, just like you would be able to go to a bar and partake safely. Know that you're not going to get overserved because there's somebody else on the list. You're not going to have laced pot from a dispensary. It's going to be state regulated. So I think that the fear of having, laced marijuana, that's, and if anything, a reason for allowing it. So I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents on it, and just a little bit of perspective outside of what others might have.
Anyone else? Just your first and last name.
My name is Kayla Whitmer. I have 3 young children, and I do not fear that their morals will be compromised by this passing. It's my job to educate them and other young children. I have young nieces, young nephews. And for all of you against this, you talk about morals. I don't feel like I don't have a moral compass. I feel like, sorry, I'm not really good at public speaking, but anyway, I don't feel like I'm a bad person. I just want to ask you guys, if this passes, you can just simply choose to not engage. But why are you going to affect others' lives and cause them not to be able to partake in this? Does that make sense to everyone, or am I... No? Okay.
Yeah, do
you have questions for me to elaborate what I mean? Or does anybody else? No? Okay.
My name is Joyce Mansfield, and aside from the moral compass and aside from the legalism, I do not agree with the whole process. The drug, when I was in junior high, I had friends that smoked it regularly, and their mental capacities went downhill, and it was not a good thing. I'm sure there's a limit, but it's just like drinking. There's, people don't know how to put a limit on it, and they just keep going, but that's a whole different story. But I just want to say that, yes, it does affect other people, because when you're not thinking straight or you're not acting right, it does affect the people around you, and you may not know that, but it can hurt the people around you, and it affects them deeply.
Can I ask a question on that? Should we close all bars then? Or things like
but
that?
That's not the discussion tonight.
Could you take your hat off, please?
Yeah, sure. No problem. My name's Jeremy Whitmer. Lived in this community for about 20 years now. I believe that we keep talking a lot about children and how it could affect them and the drug use. I mean, this dispensary itself they're not going to be selling to children. Nobody's carding down on the street corner. When I was growing up 25 years ago in high school, I mean, it was harder to get alcohol than it was to go buy marijuana. I mean, like it or not, it's here. It's been here forever. Statistically, there's about 35% of the community that uses marijuana today, this community. So I don't see that it's going to be some huge giant jump in new people using marijuana or children that you're going to start seeing it out on the street more than it is. I can honestly think that probably only good things would come from having a dispensary here. You're going to cut out some of the people that are illegally selling marijuana in this community, because if it's a 30-mile drive to some dispensary where they're going to go and get it, they're just going to go down some road and buy it from somebody else. The stuff's not regulated, the stuff's not tested. In the majority of the other states, I mean, in Illinois' bill, I don't know if most of you have read that bill, the regulations are pretty strict when it comes to oversight and the amount of marijuana that they can produce and the kind of licensing or ID checks and stuff like that. If any of you ever actually walked into one of those places in a different state, I mean, they're under lock and key. It isn't like a bar you walk into. Lock and key, buzzed in, scan your ID, goes on record. It's not like your local bar that you walk into. I don't really foresee that anything horribly bad would be coming from this. I know our mayor put a survey out on Facebook the other day asking the community what they thought about a dispensary. And overwhelmingly, I think out of 1,400 people, 87% said that they would like to see a dispensary come to town. And I think TJ hit the nail on the head with a lot of his comments. I don't really foresee a dispensary, even if the council does pass for a dispensary to come here, I don't necessarily see one wanting to come here. I don't think that we have the population or the market for them. I mean, these are very large companies. GTI Industries, we built that one over in the company that I work for over in Oglesby. It's a big grow facility. They own 3 of the cultivation centers in Illinois. They're no small potatoes. They're on the NASDAQ. You can buy their stock. They own 13 dispensaries in 8 different states. These aren't small little mom and pop shops. These are big corporations with hundreds of millions of dollars. They are by the book. So I think when it comes to business, they're not going to screw it up or try to screw it up by cutting corners or doing this and that. It's not going to be if they wanted to come here and had the opportunity. It's not going to be what I think some of the community thinks, whether some local dive bar where there's a bunch of hoodlums hanging out at. That's anybody else?
Mayor, can we ask one question regarding the poll that you put on Facebook? Do we know if that was 1,400 individual responses or where they came from?
Yeah, the people that voted could only vote once. And if you click on the 1.4K showing those, you'll see everybody that voted yes, and then you can go on and see everybody that voted no. Just need your first and last.
Linda Murphy. I'm a great grandma, and I want to tell you that marijuana destroys families, and it is a gateway drug. And if you have a teenager, or will have a teenager, you'll find that out. And the argument that everybody does, it never held water for me when I had a teenager in the house. And that's one that's used by kids. It shouldn't be used by adults. Do we really want our leaders to endorse the use of a gateway drug? I don't think so.
Well, maybe if I can sit down to understanding, we'd like to sit.
Yeah, we brought some chairs in, but if we have anyone else that wants to speak? We don't have any more, we don't have anyone else that wants to speak, and go ahead and close it.
Can I just ask, what do the police think of this? What do the police have to say about this?
Well, I'm not going to offer an opinion. We'll enforce whatever the ordinance is. One way or the other.
My name is Tom Rudd. For most of you, I'm sorry. Got it?
We got to hold it in, right? Okay. You would think I know that all the years I've been up here, but obviously, for most of you that don't know, I was the police chief for the last 17, almost 18 years here. Prior to that, I worked 8 years undercover with the Illinois State Police, narcotics. I've been at the low points, and I've been at the high points of drug use. I've seen the bad sides, and I can't really say I've seen a lot of positive sides, but what we're looking at here, obviously, is that we have a strong organization with CPASA, Community Partners Against Substance Abuse. I was a board member for 17 years for prevention of substance abuse in this community. We've got some issues here that we have to decide. Obviously, we look at one side, and it's whether or not we want to authorize a distribution center or the sale of marijuana in the city of Princeton. The other thing is that we're looking at is we talk about moral issues, and we talk about the financial gains. And if you look at all the states that have adopted the legalization of marijuana, they're in the billions of dollars in revenue. But I think they're losing sight on the money side and the other side of what's happening with our young people. And I have to agree with the gentleman that talked about, we look at alcohol, 21 years old, we look at legalization of marijuana, 21 years old, and I think the lady in the plaid shirt, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name now, with the blonde hair, but, it comes down to choices. And it's the same way with drug prevention. You have a choice of whether or not you want to do the right thing or you want to do the wrong thing. But if you look at the culture and the way things are going, my gosh, it's overwhelming of the acceptance of what's going on with the legalization of marijuana. Can we stop it? I don't think we can. Should we try? Absolutely. We're a community that we try to stay ahead of the game, especially with prevention, with drug abuse prevention. But, what it comes down to, again, like I said, is choices. And I can tell you, when we talk about people say, well, we still got a suicide issue in the city of Princeton, I disagree with that. All right, I was here at the highlight of that, as many of the people that are sitting up here, when we had a lot of suicide preventions. But a lot of them were not drug-related. All right, they were depression issues, they were mental health issues, they had nothing to do with the drugs. Now, when we look at the opioid crisis, obviously, yeah, now we're looking at the harder drugs, we're looking at heroin, we're looking at all those things that can cause, obviously, death. with overdoses. So I think what we have here is that we have a decision that, is it the right thing or is it the wrong thing? And we all care about our kids. There's not one person in here, I don't think, that can't say they don't care about where their kids are headed with this stuff. And it is a gateway drug. I have to agree it is. I've seen it. I worked it for 8 years. I know it's a gateway drug. But again, what it comes down to is when we talk about legalization, they're going to put a cap on this thing. It's 21 years old. You make a choice. Is it a good one or is it a bad one? But I think parents still have to stand behind that 110% and try to guide their children in the right direction and try to keep them away from using anything that might harm them. So again, you know, it comes down to choices. But thank you.
Anyone else?
Joel, can I ask you a quick question? I know you have this in our mayor report, marijuana dispensaries. You're going to be discussing more then at our regular council meeting here?
Yeah, because we weren't going to interact with this as a public hearing for you, so during the council meeting which follows, under mayor, we're going to have marijuana discussion up here. So if anyone wants to discuss further, let's discuss it up here. Let's stick around. Anybody? You want to speak?
What we got?
We don't have anyone else that wants to speak. We'll go ahead and close the hearing, and we'll do that by vote.
I make a motion that we adjourn our special meeting and reconvene for our regular council meeting at 7 o'clock here at City Hall tonight.
Second.
Motion for second, call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Merrick-Querom.
Aye. And now that it's 7 o'clock,
Everyone's saying, or?
hearing is closed. If anybody wants to leave, you can go ahead and exit, and we'll start our regular meeting here shortly. Okay, I'll call this regular meeting to order. Call roll.
Merrick-Querom.
Here.
Councilmember Swanson.
Here.
Mabry.
Here.
Fabia. Gomez.
Here.
Newman.
Here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start our meeting tonight. Anybody have any public comment on anything? Okay, we'll go to Commissioner Newman and approval of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on Monday, August 19th, 2019.
Second. Motion's been seconded. Any corrections, comments? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Merrick-Querom.
Aye. I'll go to approval of invoices with City Clerk Nelson.
In the Department of Accounts and Finances, we have invoices this period for totaling $250,056.03. In the Department of Streets and Public Improvements, we have bills totaling $387,745.29. And in the Department of Public Safety, we have bills totaling $178,941.15. And in the Department of Public Property and Utilities, we have invoices totaling $112,801.70. Mayor, all council members present have confirmed their reviews of all invoices and now are submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve the invoices as presented.
Second. Motion's been second. Comments or corrections?
If I could, I know I can't vote no on one line item, but I will vote no on Park Hospitality Consultants for $2,000. Again, that's Park Hospitality Consultants for $2,000.
Yeah, we don't acknowledge that. So, okay.
Yeah, motion has been second. Any other further comment? Call roll.
Okay, Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
Aye.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. Now go to regular business and City Clerk Nelson.
Next on the agenda, we have ordinance O-19-017. This is an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 11 in the Technology Park to JCOO Properties, LLC. This is the first reading. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this ordinance, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we advance ordinance O-19-017 to the second reading.
Second. Okay. Motion to second. Comments? Questions? Pete?
I guess I'll just mention that this is an offer by JCOO Properties of Princeton to purchase Lot 11 in the Tech Park for the purpose of developing some flex buildings, which would allow a variety of different types of uses. The developers believe that there was a shortage of such properties in the city, and thought this was one way to alleviate that and capitalize on that need. So that's basically it. They made an offer to the city. You folks have reviewed it, and so on and so forth.
Okay, the motion has been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
I'll abstain.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is ordinance number O-19-018. This is an ordinance annexing property to the city of Princeton. This is the first reading. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this ordinance, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we advance ordinance O-19-018 to the second reading.
Second. Motion's been second. Pete?
Well, I'll just mention that Jonathan and Julie Mabry had approached the city about a project that they would like to do on property they've recently purchased. Frankly, everybody I've come in contact with thought this property had been in the city limits for the last 50 or 60 years. But it is not. It's a little triangle on the end of East Thompson and Illinois 26. And they have plans to create a housing project on that land. So in order to do so and hook up to city utilities, they need to annex it, and that's what this is all about.
Comments? Motion's been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
I'll abstain.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. We don't have a city manager report tonight because we don't have a city manager at present. So we'll go to the mayor report. And this is first on the item is marijuana dispensary. So if the council wants to comment, now's the time.
I guess I'll go ahead and start. So I have a couple thoughts on this, and it echoes what has been said earlier. I had a chance to visit with some of the leaders in Geneseo today about this, and they're fighting or discussing the same thing about what to do. But in the process, I talked with the Geneseo Ministerial Association, which is a Pastor Steve from the Evangelical Free Church, and he gave his stand on it, that going back to it being a moral issue, he said that, we always legislate morality, and even though we don't like to say we make moral choices in government, we do. He talks about the story that he gave to his city leaders in Geneseo. If we are taking one stand where we support DARE, and then the other that we're going to allow this, he said, what happens when a building gets occupied with a dispensary for the sale of recreational marijuana, and your kids are standing there and they say that they watch possibly their teacher or a city leader or a coach go into that building to buy product. These are the same kids that rely on the looking up to these role models, the teachers, the coaches, the city leaders. So he said that it's definitely sending mixed signals. So I will be voting no on this. If this ordinance comes before us, I will be voting no and not in favor of this. And that's where I stand.
There was a lot of talk about money and what revenues come in. And something that I had mentioned is that if it does pass, and there is a dispensary here, that money should be used for something better for the community. Myself, with everybody that I've spoken to, both on the phone, to Facebook, to personal contacts and personal experience, my own personal experience is that I've had friends and family that have been addicted to not only alcohol, but they started with marijuana as a simple thing just to have fun. And as community leaders and as leader of this community and a leader I have been pretty much all my life with the military, you pretty much lead by example and you take care of the people that are beneath you. And I believe that is a responsibility to have, even though we're not supposed to have a moral obligation, but we do. What we do and what we actually vote on actually has an impact on the community, much more than what people think. So, in my own opinion, and the opinion of those that I've talked to, who have actually graciously have voted for me and have put me in the seat, I will be voting no as well.
Just a couple things. Somebody mentioned that the city is endorsing drugs. We let a dispensary in here. I can assure you that nobody up here endorses drug use. We're not up here endorsing drug use. For me, from personal experience that I've had in my life, this would be an easy vote for me. But I can't look at it as a personal issue because I represent the city of Princeton and its residents. And by far and away, the feedback that I've gotten from the community is by and large, no question that the majority wishes for us to have a dispensary here. And the number one driving reason is the tax revenue. And, what we can do with that tax revenue. Marijuana is legal January 1st. January 1st comes and your neighbor could be sitting in their living room smoking marijuana and nobody can do anything about it. City can't do anything about it. The state passed it. It's going to be legalized. So, for me, it comes down to, allowing someone, and again, the chances of us getting a dispensary, I don't think is all that great. I agree with a couple of comments made earlier. The cost, when you include the building and the security mandates from the state, you're probably looking at a $500,000 plus investment to bring a dispensary here. And I just don't think that, population-wise, we're on Interstate 80, but I think it'd be, I'd be surprised if one did come here. If one did, it'd be a couple years down the road. But I look at it as this is what the community by and large has told me. They want a dispensary, and it's revenue-driven. And what we can do with that money as far as our police and fire pensions would narrow, if not close that gap altogether. So basically, it's allowing someone to come into Princeton to open a business that's legal, selling a legal product at retail and doing so legally. And that's my position on it.
It's a hot topic, and like everyone said, just echoing it in here, no one in here supports drug use, and we all care about our kids. The feedback I've got is majority that have no problem with it being here, because if it's not here, it's going to be down the road. I would also agree, I don't think it's going to end up here. I don't think it's big enough area either. But on the flip side, there's lots of things we can do with the tax money, and it is legal January 1st.
I have been struggling with this for quite a while, and I know this is an important issue. And I'm trying to think of a logical way to make my decision and be comfortable with it. I haven't made it yet, so I'm going to wait just a little bit of time to make my final decision. But initially, right off the top of my head, the people that support marijuana chose not to come here tonight except for a few. And the people that are against it came out loud and clear, and I hear that. But I'm hearing people that are more positive than negative. So when we get right down to a vote, I'll make a decision. Right now, if I had to lean one way or another, I think that the revenue for the city is important, and I think that parents have to use good judgment with their families and their kids and make sure that they take the right path. I think that's critical. I think Tom Root hit on it, that kids have to make choices. We all have to make choices in life. I mean, people abuse alcohol, or people will abuse marijuana, or people will abuse smoking and get lung cancer and die. There's all kinds of ways that you could go wrong in your life, and you just have to make some hard choices. I don't think having a dispensary in the city of Princeton is a stigma to this community at all. I just think it's something that we have to give serious thought to over the next couple of weeks.
Any further comments?
Mayor, if I could, I know you mentioned that your personal opinion versus what's good for the city. So, if your personal opinion, you would not vote for this, or what?
No, my life experience on personal with family. I had a son who, smoked marijuana in high school, and it was an issue that I dealt with, my wife dealt with. It was not an easy situation, but, this is not a personal decision to make from my standpoint. This is a community decision. And, I stand with the community. It's the state put us in this position up here. If it wasn't for the state, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And then the state tells us that we have to choose. Are we going to allow a dispensary or not? So, we're, in a way, we're put in a no-win situation up here. Because, no matter which way this goes, we're going to anger some people on both sides. But I have to look at this as a community decision. And I agree completely with Chief Root and his comments about this is choice. Someone else made a comment, the morality begins in the home. It begins with the parents and raising the kids. That's where it begins. And that's where the morality gets its strongest boost and strongest support. And that's where it has to, that's where it is. It's not with us up here, and I stand by my earlier comments. We are not the moral authority for the city of Princeton. I cannot sit up here myself and tell people what you can and cannot do when it comes to a legal product that's being used legally. So marijuana is here. The state passed it. They made that decision. It's going to be here January 1st regardless.
I appreciate you clarifying that. So the challenge we face, I think we all agree, we want Princeton to continue to be a special place, a place that we love. And I look 38 miles over to the east at Ottawa, and I look at two things out there on the interstate, the XXX brown bag video and the Silver Slipper. Those are both legal entities. Would we want those out on Interstate 80? And the answer is, for me, absolutely not. Now, am I being a moralistic person? I just don't think that's what we want. And I think that the marijuana dispensary falls in this slippery slope. And so I just would encourage my council members that are still not sure about this to think about it a little bit more. Talk to the folks over in Geneseo. They've taken a stand, and they haven't officially voted on this, so I'm not going to speak for them, but there's There's people there that they even outlawed video gaming. They do not allow that within their city limits. So, and they also don't allow public drinking of alcohol. So when they have events, festivals, they don't allow that. So it's very interesting where their stand is. Very, very conservative over there. And I'm not saying that we're going to back up and do those things, but I just think we have to draw a line in the sand and hold firm.
Any further comment? Okay. Also, I got parking. So we did a 90-day trial on the parking changes we made at Peru and Main intersection and also in front of the courthouse. And we did a 90-day trial, which basically means we'll give it a maximum of 90 days. And if it's like a 50-50 type of deal from the community, we go a little distance and see how it all turns out. This turned out to be a very popular change. And by and large, I mean, the community was very much in favor of the changes we made. So there's really no reason to go the full 90-day period. So by the consensus of the council, we went ahead and made the changes permanent. So everything's now been painted and it's permanent. Those changes will remain in place. Any old business? Any new business? Public comment? This is the time if you'd like to come up and speak on anything. Just need for you to go. Well, actually, you got to come up here to the corner, and we need your first and last name.
Karen Shear. I was wondering if you guys had spoken with the Fulton area. They have a dispensary, and they haven't seen any rise in crime or anything of the sort. They don't have a strip club. They don't have. It's a lot nicer area. Yeah.
Fulton, Illinois?
Yeah.
It's probably a medical dispensary?
Yep.
Yes, right. Not recreational.
And yes, but they have all the securities in place. They have paid their taxes back in full already, and it's only been open for 3 years. So just to give you a little more insight, I mean, it's not just Geneseo, it's not just Ottawa, it's other places as well, smaller places such as Fulton that have around about the same population size and the same recreational type things. That would be something more to look into instead of Ottawa.
Can I get your name for the record again?
Carrie Sher.
It was Carrie with a C.
K-A-R-I.
The last name was what?
S-P-H-I-E-R.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Whitmer. I'm just going to touch on what she said, and it was brought up that about that the dispensary is medical marijuana. To give you a little idea about there's no difference between the two dispensaries except the people that are going there. They have the same kind of security, the same kind of lock and key, same product. It's the exact same thing. So whether it's a medical dispensary that's open right now, the majority of those are going to turn into legal recreational facilities. They actually get, in the bill it says they get a 6-month head start before everybody else does. So when it comes to that, you can study some of those and see some of those cities that already have those medical facilities and see how it's affected those communities over the past several years that they've been open. The only other thing I did hear, from some of our council members that they talked a lot about more morality, and the choices that they would make based on that. And I would plead with them that instead of just going with what they feel, that their morality is and their choice, that they would do it for our community and what the community wants, and not necessarily what a few individuals feel is their moral compass.
I'd like to say one more thing. I don't have to come up here. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. I should have said this when I was up here before. But when I was a part of CPASA, I was able to go out to Washington, D.C., where we have a huge nationwide and international drug coalition conference from all of our drug-free communities across the country, the world, basically. But what it came down to was 4 years ago, when Colorado looked at passing the legalization of recreational marijuana, the governor was there at the conference that we attended. And the governor was all about saying that he supported the use of recreational marijuana, that he didn't see any resistance against it, that he thought it was going to be beneficial for the state of Colorado. They could do wonders with all of the revenue that they were going to take in. The following year, at the same conference, the governor came back. This time, he had a whole different take on the recreational use. Because what happened in Colorado, like a lot of other states, is that what do we worry about the most in our community? Our teens, right? They're the ones that are most impressionable. Our young teens, our high school kids. Those are the ones that if they can't get alcohol, they're going to try to go ahead and get recreational marijuana if they can. But what he said made a huge impact, because what happened, and he actually had tears in his eyes at this conference. He said if he had it to do all over again, even though they revenued $2 billion, okay, that first year, he said if he had it to do it again, he would have never agreed to it. Because what he found out through statistics was that the teens were using more marijuana, and the impairment they had on driving far surpassed what he ever imagined on fatality traffic accidents. Because that's the big issue, is impairment. And it was all drug impairment related. But there again, you know, our kids are impressionable. If they can't get marijuana, or alcohol, they're going to try to get marijuana. But we need to think about that.
That's kind of
This is making me very nervous. I'm Susie Bishop. I am totally against it. My niece was driving my car. Legally, marijuana is legal in Missouri, and we were in Missouri. I came back to Illinois and learned she should not have been driving my car. I came and talked to the health department. I talked to the police department. They said she should not have been driving my car. She didn't like my driving. I had 2 accidents in 18. One of them I slid into the wall on the ice, but if she was caught in my car with marijuana, do you know what that would have done to my insurance? They probably would have canceled me. My bill right now is $800 twice a year. Thank you. I'm against it.
Did you want to say something?
Just a couple of quick bits.
The first thing I wanted to throw in there really quick is this. I'm curious to see where the numbers with the team usage came from, because from my understanding was that I'm curious to see what some of the actual stats say on the teen usage in states that have legalized recreational, because from my understanding was that it's shown the contrary. It's shown that teen usage has not increased with the legalization of recreational pot in states like Colorado, Washington, etc. So that's just one thing. I'm just curious to see where some of those numbers are actually at today. Also, I'm pretty sure after the first 2 years, Colorado was only like $500,000, I think, in the first year in tax revenues, and after 2 years, they had just broken $1 million. When we left, they had just broken, I think, $1 million revenue. They just now broke $500 million. So the $2 billion point, I think, might be a little blown out. Also, I also love Main Street Princeton. I came back to Princeton to raise a family because I had awesome teachers like Ms. Coates. And I had, I know what the community is like. Small town Main Street is the way it is. It's thriving, it's alive, people like to come here. And my generation contributed much to that. I didn't, but in my essence, many of those that I grew up and went to school with and hung out with and went to graduation parties with and cheered on the Tigers with, they're the ones that they're not in here because their names are on buildings. And, there's that stigma of getting throwing it out there and, whatever repercussions might come from supporting something in a community like this as recreational marijuana. The other thing I want to think is that if I'm coming to Princeton to purchase recreational pot, I'm also grabbing a pizza seller pizza, or I'm grabbing some crab rangoon from OG, or I'm grabbing, now I can grab a growler from the Barrel Society. So there's many other benefits to Princeton than just, oh, they also have a recreational dispensary. I agree, it would be kind of a conflict of interest to see your English teacher going in on Main Street to a dispensary. As small of a community you are, you know everybody's going to have a thought of seeing somebody's car in that parking lot. So having it on Main Street might not be a good idea, but if it were to be here, it's the other stuff that's not going in to legally be able to purchase and not have to go to somebody outside of other limits to be able to get it. It's all the other stuff. The industries that you see affected, that I saw that you see affected in communities that have it legalized, they tend to embrace it. Hotels don't want to not open up around there. The DoubleTree and the Hilton actually embraced it, informed the people staying in their hotels that it was legal in the state. Here are the rules. And also, here are these tents outside that you can go and partake in, just as you would a beer tent at a beer garden. So there is different ways that the community can embrace it. Pairing menus at restaurants is something that you'll see. I mean, we're a foodie town too. There's so many other things outside of just, oh, the kids are going to get the pot, because that's not the case. And I think that if it were the case, this wouldn't even be a discussion. Also, too, I also voted for you, Councilman Gomez. I voted for a few of you guys. So I think to say I'm here to represent my voters might be skewed based on what our thoughts on it be, because marijuana smokers are here already. They're teaching your kids in your classrooms. They're drawing your blood in the hospitals. The thing is that now the best thing to come from this is that social stigma that they are somebody to be feared and turned away from goes away. And the more education you get, the less uninformed youth you have, and the better decisions they're going to make when it comes to making the wrong or right choice. Anybody who wants to talk about morality that gets a wrong choice, go home, Google Charlotte's Web, the strain for this little girl named Charlotte in Colorado Springs who was suffering from thousands of seizures in her year, and because she uses CBD oils and they created this strain for Charlotte, she's now able to have some kind of enjoyment in life. So when you talk about a moral issue, it's not just, we spoke to the local ministries. There's a lot more when it comes to compassion and actually, feeling empathy and all that sort of thing, as opposed to just where my moral authority comes from and who it's obligated to.
Could I just make a quick comment, Joel? When we had the opportunity to be possibly chosen for a cultivation center when it was medical marijuana, I was supporting that, because I understand there's the value in some of the things with medical marijuana. So I want to make that clear, that I don't sound like a hypocrite, that we had the opportunity for possibly one of those coming into Princeton. I caught a lot of flack over that, and it didn't come. They withdrew their application before they got a chance to look at it. But so we as a council have looked at that before, and that was with medical marijuana, which I tend to think that with your prescription, you're going to a doctor, you're getting that prescription. So that young girl, Charlotte's Web, I don't know if she had to get a prescription for that, but the point is that it's a totally different application process of getting that prescription and utilizing that product. Sorry to interrupt. Was there somebody else who wanted to do the public comment?
Yeah, anybody else public comment? Before we close, I'll just share a couple things, because I have I look at reports and surveys and that, and I try to stay away from ones that are paid by the marijuana industry or ones that are paid for by the anti-marijuana faction. So I try to go with scholarly reports, and I just saw a couple reports, one from the Journal of the American Medical Association Pediatrics, and another one, National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and they speak about Colorado, and they have found that with recreational marijuana, it does not appear to encourage teen use and might actually discourage it. In Colorado, they showed more than 9% of Colorado teens aged 12 to 17 used marijuana monthly on a 2015 and 2016. It was a significant drop. They show that Colorado was number 1 in the nation in adolescent marijuana use. They now have fallen to number 7, and that's since recreational marijuana was passed. So there are studies. You'll read all sorts of studies out there. And like I say, if you want a pro-marijuana study, go to a pro-marijuana site. If you want an anti-marijuana report, go to an anti-marijuana. Your best choice is go with scholarly reports from Harvard and Journal of American Medical Association and so on. There's a lot of interesting information out there. A lot of it contradicts what we heard tonight, and some of it supports it. But by and large, and this also mentions, there's been a drop in opiate use where recreational marijuana It not necessarily affects those that are on opiates now, but people that are coming up, instead of going to opiates, they go to recreational marijuana for pain relief or whatever they use it for. So there's plus and minus, obviously, on the issue on both sides. But again, marijuana is here, and none of this speaks of a dispensary. It speaks of marijuana being legal in the state of Illinois. So that's where the state has put us, and that's what we're dealing with. So. Again, one more chance for public comment.
Mayor, could I say
No,
one
go right
thing?
ahead.
Let's all agree to one thing that we're excited about, and that's the Homestead Festival. Could you give us a quick rundown on that, Mayor, what's going on? It's going to kick off here very shortly, and we got the street concert as well.
Yeah, we got first of all, tomorrow night, as everybody, I'm sure most of you know, that we are dedicating a star and plaque to Catherine Hayes. That'll be tomorrow. She's getting a star at the Apollo Theater in the sidewalk. So we're having a reception for her tomorrow night for that. Thursday night, we have American English street concert, down on Main Street concert with American English. Then Friday, obviously, Homestead gets started. That's going to be capped off with a street, or it's not a street concert, it's actually a park concert at the Soldiers and Sailors Park with a band called Faithfully. That's an Eagle and Journey tribute band. Obviously, the parade on Saturday starts at 1:30, and I'm glad you brought that up because the city will have a trolley in the parade, so anybody up here that wants to ride in the parade, as we do every year, please be up at the north end sometime around 1 o'clock-ish. A lot of things going on before and after the parade, and then Sunday you got the car show, and we'll be dedicating the walkway that has been completed to what they're doing at this point. It's not a finished product by any means, but they got the furniture in there now, and it looks great with the sales and everything. So that'll be dedicated on Sunday as well. So big weekend ahead of us. Weather looks to be great, so I hope everybody enjoys Homestead. So if we don't have any further public comment, Colleen?
We can start Thursday with Flags of Freedom with a cookout out of Peel.
And what time does that start?
That starts at 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
11 o'clock to 1 o'clock at Peel's Flags of Freedom Cookout. Okay, so nothing further. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting, reconvene at our next.
I move that we adjourn our regular meeting this evening and reconvene for our next meeting on Monday, September 16th, 2019, 7 o'clock at City Hall.
Second.
Motion's been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Quero.
All right, this meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for coming. I'd like to see this every 2 weeks.